Hello. Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Mountain Nostalgic Runner. And we are back for another episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 16. This is episode 17. And it's called Game Over. Now, this is the season finale. And I know I'm late. I'm so behind on doing my review on this, along with Miami. But it was a holiday weekend. You already know how I give it up. If it's a holiday weekend, it's not going to come out on time. I'll be fully transparent with you. Until, especially if it's like a show that I'm not as interested in. And you already know how I felt about this season. It wasn't the best season to me. It was better than what it was last season. But it still wasn't a great season to me. And full transparency, the season finale, I don't know if it's just me or not, it kind of felt flat. It felt flat for me. It just kind of felt flat. It seems like the only person that brought anything to it was Angela. And Angela has been the only one. I mean, her back has to hurt for how much she's been carrying this season. She's been carrying it, especially after the Kenya of it all. She's been carrying it, and it's annoying, because it's like everyone else ain't really clocked in like that, and some of the other things are happening. It's like it happened kind of a little too late during the season, so it's a little confusing, and I feel like we're missing. There's some story. There's like holes in the story missing when it comes to a lot of the things, and yeah, so. Without further ado, you already know how I do. We're going to go in the order of the people and kind of somewhat talk about what we're expecting for the reunion. Because I already did see the preview of the reunion. I already saw them talking about the fashions of the reunion. And spoiler alert, when it comes to that, it's a Bravo thing they have where they have some of the ladies. They're talking to some of the ladies at the reunion, and I believe this before the reunion is even starting. And Drew is not on stage. I'm like, child, is she late? Is that just what they're going to have her be doing? She's just always going to be late. Anyway, but without further ado, let's talk about all the ladies and go from there. All right, first things first, let's get Cynthia out of the way. Cynthia, because she's friend of, we're not really getting much from her other than her being a supporting cast member. And so we didn't really get the end montage when it comes to her. But one thing that I will say that we got from her this episode was she did stir up some mess. So what happened with her is, so remember when Britt, the episode before, basically talked about how she told Portia that Shamia showed her and Kelly some private text messages about Portia and her. And so Portia felt away, but Portia being passive aggressive, she ain't gonna say anything. And also too, at this point, they're at Angela's event. So this is the last event of the episode. And so Portia wasn't going to bring it up, but then Cynthia took it back to Shamia of what Britt did. And that's what got the mess started between Shamia and Britt. We already knew that Shamia and Britt had their issues, but then you thought they resolved it, but clearly they didn't, because Britt still felt away about some things. And so we'll talk more about who you believe when it comes to the Britt and Shamia thing and what Britt did after the fact a little bit later. But really the only thing that Cynthia did there was she carried the bone. And Portia actually was kind of annoyed about it at the end that happened, because Portia didn't want to bring it up. I really think this season Portia did not want their friendship, Shamia, and she did not want that to be their storyline. I don't know what Portia wanted, because honestly she was a flop. And we'll get more into Portia in a little bit, but that's kind of all Cynthia did. And I want to know what y'all views are when it comes to Cynthia. Do you think she did a great job as a friend of, or no? I think if she was any other friend of, if she was a friend of that wasn't already a housewife before, I think our view about her would be great. Would be, at least my view would be different. So to me, I think if I didn't already know Cynthia Bailey, I would think that she did a great job as a friend of, because she got out the way, she kind of helped move things along, she, was the glue of the group to a certain degree. And they were missing that, especially once Kenya was left the group. They were missing that element. But honestly, I'll be fully transparent. I don't know if she would have been as needed, or even really. I don't think she would have done as good of a job if Kenya was still on the show. Sorry, unpopular opinion. Because other than Britt picking a fight with Kenya, the only person that I could have foreseen maybe picking a fight with Kenya might have been Portia. Because also, too, if Kenya wouldn't have left the show, Phaedra wasn't coming back. So, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs when it comes to this season, and it leaves a lot to be desired, a lot to be thought of. But I don't know what your thoughts are, but that's kind of my thought, is because I feel like that was supposed to be technically Kenya's role of moving things along, bringing things together. Kenya was not going to play, she wasn't going to do her normal role that she does as being the villain. She's been trying to not be the villain of the show for quite some time. I would say the past 2 or 3 seasons, she's been trying to move away from it. But people keep trying to, push it. And I'm not Team Twirl. I'm just going by what I see on the screen. I'm Team Nobody. But, to me, I kind of feel if Kenya was still been on the show, I don't know how effective Cynthia would have been on the show as much. Because, let's be so for real. Throughout the years when we watched Cynthia on the show, it was really Cynthia and Peter. It was really Peter, Patricia, if you will. He was the more charismatic one of them when they were married. And so she kind of was just like the mediator, the person that does all that. And to me, Kelly does that a little bit now as a newbie. She gives that vibe. She's a little too flip-floppity, but there's a lot of people in the cast who are kind of flip-floppity already. So it's just like Cynthia helped move things along, but I feel like Kenya could have done the exact same role, and would have probably. And so in a weird way, so for those who don't know, who haven't been following, Kenya now actually has her own YouTube channel, and she has this kind of like this show called As the World Twirls On, or something about the World Twirls On. And it's like a podcast, and she talks about the Housewives and whatnot, mainly her Housewives franchise and her experience and stuff like that. And based off of that show, you could tell Kenya, sorry, Cynthia, I'm totally making this about Kenya right now. But, I'm sorry, you didn't really bring, you're a friend of, number one, and to me, I think you being a friend of versus others being a friend of, I expected more from you because you're a veteran of the show. That's kind of what I'm getting at, but walk with me here. So, but Kenya and Cynthia are not in a good place. And I think it has everything to do with this show. Actually, I don't think I know it has everything to do with this show. And I think Cynthia knew in her heart of hearts to a certain degree, if Kenya would have still been on the show, she would have been doing kind of similar role as a Cynthia, and Cynthia would have been outshined. And my theory of why I feel that way and think that is based off of what happened in if y'all seen the original Ultimate Girls Trip Housewives show with Kenya and Cynthia, you kind of saw that side of Cynthia before, and even Nene has alluded to it. So that's kind of my thoughts on that, partially why they're not really in a good place. And let's be so for real. Kenya did a bad thing. She shouldn't have did what she did. But you're supposed to be her best friend. You didn't really have her back. You kind of had the other ladies back a lot more. Like friending her, because there's a way of like, holding your friend accountable, but then also just, keeping it cute. Like, to me, I think Drew did a really good job of that. She was a real one the whole entire time. She's like, what Kenya did was wrong, but I'm still not sure about you. That to me would have been the way of handling that as a other cast member. Because I don't know, like they didn't know that lady, and now what we know when it comes to Britt, I don't know what to believe when it comes to all that. And not to, child, how did I make Cynthia about everyone else but her? Anyway, let's move on, because that's kind of what was given. Okay, next, let's go ahead and talk about Kelly. Let's talk about Kelly. So, this episode, Kelly and Britt still are not seeing it for each other. They're done. Because, they kind of, once they said what they said last episode, you knew they weren't going to be good anymore. But my whole thing with Kelly is, I just don't like passive-aggressive behavior. Like, if you feel a way, you need to say it. Like, especially since you guys were best friends first. Okay, full transparency, a little bit about my business. I agree with certain levels of passive aggressiveness. For example, if I don't know you from a can of paint and I don't need to get to know you really, and I didn't already build somewhat of a rapport with you, aka basically acting like we're besties on TV, or for TV, ghosting. So for me, my form of passive aggressiveness is ghosting. I ghost people. When I'm over a situation, you don't exist in my world anymore. I don't talk to you anymore. That's kind of my only form of passive aggressiveness I do. Other than that, it's like the other extreme. But I really only reserve my non-passiveness towards my friends and people who already have gotten to know me. If you don't really know me for real, for me, it's no harm, no foul. So me ghosting you doesn't seem like that's really a problem for real, in my opinion, my personal. I know I have friends who just don't understand why I do that, but it's like, boundaries. Like, but in their case, like, doing the silent treatment being weird, like, if someone says hi to you, you don't like, and you're in the same friend group, you can still say hi to him, just hi to them, but just don't say anything else. Just keep it cute, And it doesn't even have to be like a passive aggressive hi. It can just be like hi, and then just move on. That would be my way of handling it if like I was Kelly. But instead, she's doing this weird silent treatment where Britt's like hi. It's just really weird. And anyway, so the other thing with Kelly is Kelly and Shamia, clearly they are like besties now. And it's just kind of like, it just reminds, I don't like when people just like put friends on your friends right away like that. To me, that's a lot. But, you do you. It's fine. That's cute, I guess. But really, other than that, I guess with Kelly overall this season, she kind of felt short to me as well, no pun intended, because she didn't really get into her divorce until towards the end of the season. We didn't really get to see her really cook until towards the end of the season. And we didn't really hear much about her restaurant that didn't open until the end of the season. And now, after the fact, we're hearing all this news about like how she's dealing with a lawsuit. Like, honestly, if we would have got more into her details of what's going on with her and her just like not being in the background for majority of the season, I feel like we would have been more invested in Kelly. But, it didn't happen like that. So that's kind of the other thing that for Kelly was kind of a disappointment. And also, too, I just really wish she would have used her words and really go into detail to Britt about why they're not cool anymore. Versus Britt is still thinking it's about the stylist, and it's not. We know it's not because we're watching it, but like because you didn't communicate that to her, like she doesn't know that. And also too, things wouldn't have blown up the way they blew up if you would just use your words to explain to her why you felt hurt. Like, to me, both of their reactions did not constitute an end of a friendship. But because mainly because Kelly didn't communicate to her what needed to happen, respectfully, Britt is not a mind reader. And like, I'm not even team Britt. I just am like stating the obvious. Because if I didn't know for sure either, I wouldn't have known either. Because but that's that passive aggressiveness. And I get why Shamia and Kelly are friends, because they both have that energy about them. They're both extremely passive aggressive. But also too, I don't know what Kelly's going to bring for the reunion. I think she's just going to be there, in my opinion. And with her seating where she sat at, it doesn't make sense to me. I think she should have been the last seat versus Drew, considering the fact that everyone made a storyline about Drew, including her. So that's kind of my thought on Kelly. Let's move on. Okay, next, let's talk about Drew. Drew, this episode didn't really do much other than she did shade Shamia when Shamia had like a showcase. So basically Shamia, this episode had a showcase before the season finale. And Drew also was being a detective with Angela in reference to the Marcus situation and his alleged allegations about Charles cheating. So that was kind of Drew's role, and that's what she was doing this episode. Other than that, we never got to the bottom of why she's always late. And then we got to see her with Ralph. Y'all already know I can't stand the fact that these producers just are like, this is what Ralph wants, and this is what the producers are giving him. He really wanted to be the star. He wanted to be a peach holder, and it's not even like entertaining good. It's annoying. Like, I feel like with Peter Thomas, it made sense because there's other husbands for him to be in the women's business that he was engaging in, so it kind of made sense. And also too, because Cynthia was kind of boring in comparison, it made sense. But Ralph is just like competing with his wife for a peach, in my opinion. That's how it comes off. And so they had this scene where, in this episode, where Drew was like, hey, can you come up from the basement? And then they talked about being cordial for the kids. And so they're trying to work it out. But the end credits show they still aren't divorced, and they're still not necessarily in a good place. They're still pretty much where they were at before. Mine is just being separated. But like, I feel like their separation isn't even a real separation, in my opinion, because it's like, but y'all still in the same house. So how is this different than it was from before? Because wasn't he always in the basement before they got separated and raced to the courthouse 2 years ago or whatever? I don't know. I thought that's what it was before. But anyway, that's kind of it for Drew. Let's move on to talk about Portia. Yeah, let's go with Portia next. Okay, so Portia in this episode, she finally, fast forward, at pretty much towards the very, very end of the episode, she does finally get to film in the house. So like that background for when she's doing her confessionals is in the house that, she was fighting about and couldn't really film in the house. So she wasn't even able to film in the house till the very end. So basically when the ladies are starting to do their confessionals. So that's when she finally got that house. we now know that Portia's divorced now, fast forward. I know in the end credits they mentioned that it was held up because Simon was detained, ICE detained Simon, which is interesting because F ICE. Okay, first of all, F ICE. But in this case, considering that we know allegedly that Simon has been a scammer since the 1980s, is it really F ICE when he's been illegally in this country for like 30 years though? Is that really? And he was doing some scammy type behavior while he was in this country? Like, that's one of the rare times where it's like, you know, it's unfortunate that it took like ICE that does what they're doing now, which is so morally incorrect and wrong, and I'm very much against it, to like get someone who's basically been doing stuff illegally for like decades. That's crazy. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. When it comes to the Portia and Simon situation, y'all kind of already know where I stand at. Like, it was two scammers trying to out-scam each other, and Portia won. Because, let's be so for real, I feel like Portia married him to get a lick, and she did that. I don't know how she's going to get the lick since he's back in Nigeria, but neither here nor there. But anyway, so besides that, the other thing that we get from Portia is a breakdown of the friendship between Portia and Shamea. Because again, Portia is believing what other people are telling her versus going to, to Shamea to talk to her to make sure that that's real. And also too, this is the other thing that gets me about Portia is Britt said what she said to her. But did Portia ask, was this after? Or my first follow-up question when Britt told me that information back when she did, I would have been like, so timeline-wise, when did this happen? Because to me, it's giving that this still happened around the time where Shamea and Portia were not okay, and Shamea was doing her passive-aggressive thing. So if it still happened around that time, y'all should be in the clean slate since then. And you also went against your own word, Portia, when you said we're not going to let others mess up our friendship. Right then and there, once Britt said what she said again, you already broke your own thing. Like, does it apply to her but not you? That's kind of messed up. So, but at the same time, Portia's making it seem like she doesn't have an issue with Shamea, and she was going to talk to Shamea about it after the fact. And we knew that, we saw that never happened. And we also saw that they're back to not being in a good place. And they didn't have an argument or anything on camera, but really all the antics and everything's been happening after the fact. And we're going to see in the previews of the reunion that they're not good. But to me, that definitely tells you something. It tells you the friendship hasn't been good for a long time. And they were just faking it on the camera about how they were in a good place. And that's kind of tragic. But other than that, that's the other thing that's happened with Portia this season. And really, and at Shamea's charity event, not Shamea's, at Angela's charity event that she had for the Oakleys, they did give Portia the honor of her humanitarian causes with her cousin, the one who passed away. So there was that. And also, too, the last episode, this is literally right after that happened. So Portia just kind of wasn't really there. And that's kind of been the issue the whole entire season. Portia was not present at all this season. This was like such a letdown of a season when it comes to Portia. She was not really clocked in. She literally, to me, played more of a friend of role. And that's kind of why, leading back to what I was talking about, like Cynthia, I think Portia did the friend of role for someone who's a veteran housewife correctly. I think Cynthia did the bare minimum. It was a very bare minimum season for her. But anyway, moving on. All right, let's talk about Shamea. So Shamea in this episode, she did have like a showcase where she performed her songs. Never Had. Actually, too, side note, there is a music video out there on Shamea's YouTube channel. Never Have. If you want to check it out, you can. And the whole entire time she's doing this performance, and Drew in the audience is shading her like the vocals are on, but it isn't on. And I'm like, respectfully, neither y'all are like the Mariah Careys of the world. Let's be so for real. But I will say this. Shamea has been throwing so much shots at Drew. I'm not mad at Drew throwing the shots back. And honestly, so far, when I compare music to music, Drew's songs are better to me. They sound better to me. Now, whether the vocals are vocaling, it doesn't matter. That's a case of like, you know, in hip hop, for example. Let me give you a cute example. And the hotties don't get me because I feel like I'm a hottie. Meg Thee Stallion. Love Meg. I do. Mainly because she raps for us tall stallions. And I think I'm a stallion. Okay? Because I'm a tall girl. I've been chubby. I'm kind of a little bit of my chubby athletic look right now. And I've been thin. I've been both. But I've always been kind of athletic. Let's be so for real. But anyway. But when it comes to Meg, Meg versus like a Glorilla. And this is kind of like a similar comparison we could compare them to musically. Can Megan rap better than Glorilla? Yes. The answer is yes. Definitely. She can. Whose songs are better though? Glorilla songs. Putting them together. Like, and to me, that's kind of the argument that you could possibly put when it comes to Shamea versus Drew when it comes to their music. So far. I think Drew's voice is not as, she doesn't have as strong of a voice, but also too, Shamea is a little too much overly focusing on that, but also she doesn't really focus on her pitch and stuff like that. So you could have the stronger voice, but sometimes you could over sing things. And I think Shamea also has kind of a way of doing that. She kind of reminds me of the one from Escape who just runs to death and is like, girl, you don't need to do all these runs. She's not in Escape right now. The Tasha's one of the Scott sisters. The Scott sister who's not in a good place with the rest of the group. That's what Shamea kind of reminds me of. No offense, even though she looks like Candy. I don't know how you do all that, but that's what's happening here. Versus Drew, she's talented enough where the song comes together. The voice doesn't have to be the strongest voice as long as the song is a bop. And to me, I think Drew's songs are a little bit more of a bop. Like Delusional, I still play that song. That's a delusion. I be walking to that song. That song is a bop, okay? Drew kind of did that. Anyway, I know I'm on a whole entire tangent. But like, to me, it's like, no offense, but Shamea kind of deserves the hate that she's getting a little bit from Drew, because it's like you've been hating from the sidelines when it comes to Drew and her career this whole entire time, trying to act like Drew ain't Drew. We know who Drew is. We knew Drew Satora. We've been knew who she was. Like, yeah, may not so much on the singing, but she's more of a name than you are. I only knew you as being a friend of on Housewives. And so, sorry, I just had to I was like, Drew, get behind me real quick. I got you. I just had to do that real quick. Anyway, but outside outside that, she had this talent show. Well, I'm sorry, it was a showcase or maybe a concert. I don't know what it was, but it was giving talent show to me. And Shamia is talented. It looks like she plays the piano a little bit. And it was a good show overall, but I understood why Drew threw the shade. Other than that, the other thing that happened was that Shamia definitely picked a side when it comes to the Kelly versus Britt situation. And Shamia is definitely on Kelly's side. And then at the very end, when Shamia and Britt try to talk it over, their friendship goes all the way left and they're not good anymore because Britt brings up the kids. Brings up Shamia's parenting. Yeah, so I understand why they're not good. And that happened at the very end of the episode when they're at Angela's event. And I don't even remember how that happened, but like it just went way left. And I think Shamia this time wasn't really trying to start anything. She wasn't being passive aggressive or anything this time around. But Britt, I think, just was over this group. And you could tell this was like it for Britt. She didn't care anymore. But that's kind of what happened there a little bit. Other than that, let's get into Britt. And then after that, then we'll talk about the Phaedra and Angela of it all. Okay, Britt, this episode, she, the thing with Britt is I don't believe anything that happens with Britt other than you knew this was going to be one and done for her. Even, honestly, I don't even think it mattered if the Kenya thing happened. She was going to be one and done either way because she's giving fraud. And the reason why I say this is her scenes that she has with her man, it's giving Kelly might be right about the allegations about the pill popping of it all. And it seems like maybe y'all both do that. Because it always seems like he's high. It's like he's not there. Because at first I thought it was he just wasn't interested in her. But then once she threw that out there, that episode when they got in an argument, I was like, oh, that actually tracks. Because he seems like he's on a downer and it's not weed. Just saying. Allegedly. And then even with Britt and her, she had a scene where they were on a private plane, but they weren't on the private plane. They were just looking at it. And it's a lot of that. It's a lot of fronting. Like, basically to me, what it looked like is they went to a private airport. They went on a private plane. Like, they walked on it and then they left. They didn't actually really use the private plane or anything. They don't know anyone that even has it. They don't have it. I don't even know if they have the money to rent it. That's kind of what I got from it. So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I got from that. I was like, yeah, y'all ain't really got like that. I feel like you're fake. Y'all are fronting big time. And I'm saying that not just when it comes to this scene, but like, you know, it's been alluded multiple scenes multiple scenes throughout the season. Like when they had the dinner with the family and the little boy called it out, like, why we have lobster? Like that. Them talking about the renovation. But then when you go to the house, when she finally did have somebody over, it looked like, I don't know. That doesn't look like that's their house. Like, there's just so many things where it's like, y'all are fronting and not good. Not in a good way. It's like so obvious y'all fronting. Like they went to the dealership for the Rolls Royce, but they didn't really buy anything. It's a lot of that. Because honestly, let's be so for real. Full transparency. I could go on a private jet if I really wanted to. But like not actually like ride in it. I could go on one though. I know people that have access to going on one. Like I could go on a boat if I want to. but it's not mine. I'm going to try to make the boat thing happen, though. Side note, me and some of my friends, we have this whole entire personal joke about we need to find somebody that has a boat and just be with it. And not a boat, like kind of like a yacht boat. It's a joke. It's totally a joke. I kid. But anyway. But other than that, the other thing with Britt that happened this episode was, already kind of talking about how like Britt and Shamia got into it, and Britt went below the belt again, where they're not going to be good ever again. And the same thing with the Kelly situation. And then also the other thing that came up that we saw this episode is that Britt was with her family. Everyone was there. Everyone seemed to be good, great. And I don't know, even with her hanging with her family, nothing with her seems authentic. And I think that was a problem for most people this season when it came to her, is that everything just felt fake and phony. And not in a way where you could kind of believe a little bit of it. And this is not even me thinking about, I can totally compartmentalize and not even think about the Kenya of it all. It's just everything with her just as a whole just seems like it's fake and phony. Especially her wealth. Like, her wealth definitely seems like a front. And the funny thing is, allegedly Kelly might be fronting also, but I think Kelly did a better job of fronting. It is what it is. But okay, so then let's go on to talking about Faye. Okay, so Phaedra, this last couple episodes. So, side note, we found out Phaedra only filmed with these ladies for 10 days. So this is why we don't have much of Phaedra. And we also found out that Phaedra, I almost forgot. Portia did meet up with Phaedra at the beginning of the episode with her other cousin. I think it was either her cousin or sister, I don't remember. Because they shared more about how her cousin died, and basically Phaedra's helping with the homecoming, the funeral and all that. So that's kind of the other thing that was a Phaedra thing. I reserved it for Phaedra because there's not really much to say about Phaedra other than the other thing that happened, which was towards the end of the episode, where we had Marcus was invited to the event. Drew and Angela invited this man to the event. And this man claimed that Phaedra was the one who told him about the allegations and put the battery on his back to do all that. And because of the Athens, Georgia connection, I feel like it might be true. I partially feel like it might be true. But I don't completely feel like it's true. We'll get into why I want to talk about Angela. But I guess I'm just, okay. So let's just actually talk about Angela now, because really, Phaedra is denying it. Of course, we knew she was going to deny it. She does not know how to be accountable for nothing. She still hasn't even apologized when it comes to the whole Candy situation, ever. Like, she went to, side note, so she went on this podcast, Hollywood Unlocked, with Jason Lee. Also, Jason Lee does not care for Candy, so you could read in how that was going there when it comes to all that. But Phaedra, even at that moment, didn't take accountability for what happened there. She still hasn't, even to the point where Portia called her out on like social media. Like, girl, you did that. Because Phaedra's still trying to say that Portia and her did it together, and Portia's like, ah! And honestly, this is a case where I can't believe Portia, because I don't think Portia, sorry, no offense, it's giving more of a Phaedra thing than Portia thing. When Portia does dirt, it's a little bit more obvious. It's a little bit more low-hanging fruit. It's not as, to me, I don't feel like it's ever really as malicious. But Phaedra, if you heard some of the allegations about, her and what her and Apollo were doing throughout the years prior to even being on the show and even during the show, yeah, it kind of checks a little bit more. But anyway, so Angela decides she's going to play detective in this episode with Drew to get to the bottom of who put this battery on his back to basically spread this rumor. And I'm so annoyed that they decided to give this man camera time. This man has been on other reality TV shows before, and he has a podcast, and he's been talking about it nonstop ever since. And I don't know what it is, but I can't stand a messy gay. I cannot stand a messy queer person. Because messy queer people, that messiness is a different type of messy. It's just always so extra, so over the top, so below the belt. And it's nasty. It's like, oh my gosh, anything to be on camera, huh? And this Marcus guy has some allegations about him being on a list. And actually, I don't even think that's an allegation. I think that's a fact that he's on a list. And when I say a list, you already know. If anyone ever says a list, you already know what that means. So, and he's doing all this and drawing attention to himself. Yeah, so anyway, fast forward, after they meet up with them prior to this event, they have the event. They do the normal event stuff at the beginning, but then Angela decides she's going to be messy at the end and get to the bottom of it right then and there. And as she's doing this, apparently she didn't tell Charles that she was going to be doing all this, so Charles was pissed. She's like, get this man out of here. I don't want him here. I don't want him here. And Charles was on one. Charles was about to beat this dude's behind. And Marcus looked like he was about to pee his pants. And maybe Angela didn't say anything on purpose to give him a little bit of the fear of God in this man, which I'm not mad at it, but I am also annoyed that they even give this man camera time, because I do think I do think Phaedra has something to do with it, but Portia threw out a point. Are we sure Angela didn't do this? Because the way they edited this, I don't know. I don't think so. I still think Phaedra did this, but but at the same time, you cannot rely on this messy gay dude. I'm sorry, when there's a person that goes on the camera, they're that desperate to be on TV, you can't believe anything they say. Nothing is valid. But also, too, at the same time, we know Phaedra, even if she was to have done it, she's not going to ever own up to it. And also, too, the other reason why I think Phaedra did do this is because why did immediately she bring up the foreclosure thing of it all? If she's like, well, if I wanted to bring dirt on you, I would have talked about the foreclosures of it all. And it's like, but you have that in your back pocket, so you have been investigating this lady. And this is not below what a Phaedra would do. And Phaedra's argument is, why would I do that after I just came off this break of doing what I did from before? But I'm like, but that's exactly why you would do it, because no one would expect you to do that be that stupid. Which is why you would do that. And also, too, let's be so for real. Phaedra, the 10 episodes she was on, she did nothing. She gave nothing. She was just kind of just there for the most part. And she was just throwing unnecessary shots at really Angela and Drew this whole entire season. Even prior to what happened there. So, I don't know. Child, one more thing I forgot to mention. So, when Angela and Phaedra, when they kind of went back and forth with Marcus, which I hate that they gave him a platform. What Marcus alleged that how the information got to him and all this stuff, and how he ended up like talking to Phaedra, and this is a Phaedra thing, was Junebug. Now in the South, everyone does have a Junebug, so that cracked me up. I forgot to mention the Junebug of it all, just because that was kind of like a major point. But anyway, it's not that important, but I just figured I'll just throw that out there. Anyways, I don't know. Angela, for me, is the reason why the event, like her having that event, finally gave the season finale something. Other than that, the rest of the season finale was just like kind of like tying up loose ends. And yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know. But I do like what Angela did towards the end when she's trying to do the process of elimination of who did it before she finally just unveiled that she thinks like Phaedra did it. She threw Kelly under the bus. But honestly, Kelly, you kind of deserve that. You're the one who one of the people that put her husband's name in your mouth. And also, too, this happened at your event. So why would she not, look at you and be like, And then she mentioned Britt, but yeah, I don't think Britt did it. Some people do think Britt did it, but I don't think she did it. I really don't. I mean, I guess she could have, but I don't think she could afford to pay someone. Wait. Sorry. I see. This is what happens when I watch Housewives. I'm becoming more shady the more I watch this. Like, I don't try to be. I just be saying things that's on my mind out loud, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that out loud. Anyway, but yeah, that was kind of the season finale, though. That's kind of why I was like, it was all right. It wasn't great. Like, I don't know. Let me know what y'all thoughts are, though. But yeah, that concludes my review of the season, and hopefully the reunion brings something. It's 3 parts. I don't know why it's 3 parts. I feel like everyone is feeling that way. Like, why is this 3 parts? But anyway, neither here nor there. But that does conclude my review. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Funner. I will see you next time. Bye.